Good evening. Welcome to the February 1st, 2018 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Just a couple of things, a few things before we get started. First, I hadn't mentioned last time, wanted to congratulate board members who got reappointed at recent meetings. Brian DeSessa, our vice chair, and Helen Burgess, who is now going to be having her second term on ZBA. So just wanted to mention that. Also, we have a new board member who's on his way, running a few minutes late, Jason Hahn, who will be here shortly. Couple of other things. If all of you could do us a favor and either silence or turn off your cell phones because they interfere with our recording equipment, and we're doing the same. And the other thing I just wanted to ask is if you are inclined to speak to one another in the audience, not when you're coming before us, if you can do us a favor and go out in the hallway rather than speaking in the auditorium, because that also interferes with our recording equipment. And with that, on to the agenda.
Okay, as far as the agenda is concerned, we have a few changes in the agenda. If you folks would notice item number 8, that's going to be re-advertised for, I'll make a motion to re-advertise that for 12/15/18. Do you need a motion for that?
No motion. Just
Okay,
to re-add.
number 10 is Diana Shaw. We're going to re-advertise that for March 1st, 2018. Item 11 on the agenda is going to be adjourned until
It's a hard one to pronounce.
March 1st.
Okay, do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
And item 12 on the agenda will be adjourned. I'll move that we adjourn that to March 1st.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
And then on the decision calendar, number 1, which is Theodore C. Anderson and Alina R. Anderson, and also number 3, which is Moet 2 Inc., I'll move that we hold those decisions over until February 15th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. And Mr. Hahn is here. And this is the first time we've had a full board in almost a year. Just want you all to know. Yay.
Glad to make that possible.
Okay, we're gonna go to the beginning of the agenda, on the minor variance review. Item 1 is Glenn Goldberg and Esther Ann Goldberg, 10 Farm Lane, West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-382-2-12. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-11, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for a principal rear yard setback of 49 feet, where 60 feet is required, and a principal total side yard setback of 39.9 feet, where 45 feet is required. All for a proposed one-story addition with covered porch and a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary. Now, this is a
Board has jurisdiction?
very good. This is a minor variance review. There is no public hearing process with this. So Cornelius.
I'll have a written decision on this on February 15th, the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
I'd like to just abstain because I'm new to this. So,
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Chair votes aye.
What did he
Okay.
say?
He abstained.
He's abstaining?
That's what he said. Yes, ma'am.
Just because I'm new
No.
to anything. Not that I'm against anything.
Okay, item 2 on the agenda under new applications. We have 20 Riverly Avenue Corp. That's 20 Riverly Avenue in Riverside, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-138-2-30. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-34, Business Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for a principal front yard setback of 1.4 feet, where 4.4 feet from the northerly property line where 30 feet is required. A principal front yard setback of 5.7 feet and 4.1 feet from Riverly Avenue where 30 feet is required. And a principal front yard setback of 20 feet 3 inches and 12 feet 2 inches from Lake Avenue where 30 feet is required. Both are proposed two-story, 10,920 square foot. And any other relief, Miss, I imagine that's a building.
The board
You know,
has,
it doesn't say that.
the board has jurisdiction. The
Good
board has
evening.
jurisdiction.
Hello, Paul Pulaski with 20 Riverlay
Well, I
property,
just have to swear you in, so if you can state your address, please.
100 Park Avenue, Mattituck, New York.
Okay, and you can raise your right hand, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, if you can tell us why you're here.
Owner of 20 Riverlay Avenue, just to briefly describe the project and then answer any questions you may have. We're looking to remove the existing structure that's on the site and build a new structure that is for 8,000 square foot of medical use and potentially for residential apartments. The goal is to basically be in keeping with the new proposed Riverlay Overlay District. So that is why we're here today, to seek variances for the front yard setbacks and potentially 2 additional residential apartments. That's really the immediate goal. The property, the building itself falls within the density of build out for the size property, which is just over an acre. And we have all the parking requirements needed. The main reason we're here now is front yard setbacks and potentially 2 additional apartments. I'm here to answer any questions you may have, and I believe you all have elevations to see the overall look of the building, and obviously you have the site plan.
So, this building has been, property has been inactive for some time, so I, for one, am glad to hear about, something, being done with the property. I think that's great. In terms of the setbacks, we'll listen, there's some people here from the public tonight that are going to give us their feedback on the application, and we're here to listen to everybody. But in terms of the setbacks, the only one that I had a question about is the front yard setback of, there's one, I guess at one point it's 1.4 feet, and then at another point it's 4.4 feet. Well, a couple of things. The first is I couldn't find, it says on the application 4.4, but the survey seems to indicate 4.1.
Okay, so we will go with 4.1.
Okay, I kind of figured that. And the other question I had is, looking at the overall plan of what's going to be going on the property, I can appreciate the fact that you need every bit of space that you can get. But I just wanted to ask the necessity for having a setback so close to the property line.
The main goal with the setback is, one, to try and really be in keeping with the potential overlay district once that's approved. The goal there is to have buildings that are closer to the sidewalk for more of a pedestrian community. This lot's very unique because it's a horseshoe-shaped lot. It's basically 3 front yards. So normally I'd be asking to have parking in the front, but in this case you don't really need that because the rear parking is pretty much, it would not affect the visibility of this building from our tenants. Even though we have a medical tenant in interest, they still have, their business plan is to be as as visible as possible.
Right. And, yeah, and the other thing I wanted to mention about the setback being so, small, if this was a setback to 1.1 feet or 4.1 feet from an adjacent lot, and the adjacent lot was going to be impacted on it, I think that would be treated a little bit differently than the distance being from Riverlay Avenue itself.
Absolutely.
And the traffic circle.
Yeah, we would respect that as well, just because it's different than having a setback from a neighbor or a building or another retail or medical office building. So it's a very important piece to that circle, and architecturally speaking, this would hide the cars the best. It would make the building stand out the best. And at the same time, our traffic flow would be a little safer having the parking towards the rear of the property, or let's call it the south of the property versus the north, because you're further away from the circle at that point.
Okay. One other question. Is the development of this property, this is all connected to the expansion of the traffic circle? In other words, is the expansion of the traffic circle going to have any effect at all on what you're proposing?
No, it's, we lucked out. We purchased the property. All the sidewalk and curbing for the new traffic circle is already done. So they are not encroaching on our property. It actually sets up much better. We would be removing one, currently the property has 3 curb cuts. We would be removing the one closest to the circle, and, just making it sidewalk. But we lucked out. The DOT or whoever did all the sidewalks, it's roughly 300 linear feet of sidewalks, which are already done. So it really sets up nice, and we would just be removing one curb cut.
Good, good. Okay. All right.
Did you give the ZBA, did you fill out an EAF yet for SECRA on this?
Yes, you should have all.
We have that EAF? Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna have to coordinate SECRA with this.
Yeah. Yeah, that has to take place, and what that means is that coordinating SECRA will take some time. So that.
Adam, do you have an EAF? Because I don't have it with my packet.
Yep, it's going to take some time, so we have to basically reach out to the other interested agencies, and so the public hearing's not going to be able to be closed tonight. So we're going to have to, regardless of what testimony there was
Totally
tonight,
understood.
we have to, coordinate and then follow through with the secret process before we can finalize the application.
Understood.
I don't have anything right here. Do you want me to give you
Us, or
the?
did you give it to the planning board?
Not the short form, even?
You want to see the file? Okay.
All right, well, if we don't have it, we're gonna need that. We're gonna need a couple extra
No.
copies of the application. So
No
we can
problem.
Coordinate with the planning board. I'm guessing maybe Suffolk County, DPW, or, I don't know who else, but that's part of the EAF that you'll fill out.
Yeah. So.
Have you met with the planning board yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we already had a public hearing as well to refer to you.
Okay, and then presumably you're gonna go through site plan with them?
Yes.
Yeah,
The whole process.
Yeah, okay,
Just to touch on the variance for the additional apartments, we have the parking that would be required, we have the flow that's required, so we feel that it would definitely help with the area to be able to offer more affordable apartments. So that's one of the reasons we're asking for 2 additional apartments.
okay, very good. Yeah, sure.
So you're looking to add 2 additional affordable units?
Yes.
How many do you currently have?
It would be a total of 4
Total
affordable
of 4.
units.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. And when you said before that the traffic circle was done, you meant just the curbing and sidewalk?
The entire layout's done, the curbing, the sidewalk is done. What they have left to do is basically the finished asphalt in the spring. But what's nice is there's really no secrets there. It's especially on our property, it's pretty much their work is done. And it looks a lot better.
And you said it would mitigate traffic even.
Absolutely.
I think that's huge for.
The traffic circle and the work they're doing is definitely going to mitigate it, but we will mitigate the impact at the circle by removing one of the curb cuts into our property. Normally, you never remove one, but we don't need 3.
Yeah.
So,
That's good to hear.
And this property had previously been a diner quite some time ago, and before that, I can remember being a kid when it was the Howard Johnson's,
Yes.
actually, a long time ago.
1946.
Showing my age. Okay. So, I don't have any other questions. Are there any other questions from members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of 20 Riverlay Avenue? I'm sorry, it's 20 Riverlay Avenue Corp. And whoever would like to come up, you can either speak at the podium or you can have a seat at the table, whatever you prefer. Okay, no problem. I just have to swear you in.
Okay.
So if you can state your name and address.
Ella Delconel. I'm 9 Gerhard Avenue, Plainview, New York. We are master developers, Renaissance Downtowns in Riverside.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Candace?
You just spell your last name?
Yeah.
Dokonal. I'll give you my card later.
Okay.
So
What would you like to
I
tell
would
us?
like to bring some issues, some points that Paul hadn't touched upon or anybody asked about. You have a map, beautiful map of the Riverside Overlay District, and as a zoning board, I think you might be familiar with, but I just want to reinstate that the overlay district is designed as a form-based code and offers different dimensional regulations than the underlying zoning. Paul is making an application under office district, but the overlay district that he would be under is RO1, which is a hamlet district in the Riverside Overlay District, which is the densest possible, I can put it on the map, densest district in the whole overlay. The dimensional regulations are driven differently than the setbacks in the underlying zoning. It's kind of structured the way that it's all the buildings have to be positioned with their frontage between the build-to line and within the build-to zone. Build-to line is defined as 12 feet from the street A face of curb and 17'6" from the street B face of curb. I will point over here. This is the circle. On the circle, that's basically Street A. Riverley Avenue is Street A, and Lake Avenue is Street B.
Yep. I'm not sure if we're going to get you on the microphone being over there, sorry. Yeah.
So I just wanted to point out that there is a map over there, Paul has it, which describes that when you pull the face of curb in 12 feet or 17'6", sometimes it falls outside of the property, which happens on the circle. The regulation is to pull that build-to line to the property line. So in certain cases, building is at zero lot line. In certain cases, it can be pulled within the build-to zone. So I'm just bringing that up because we are very excited about the redevelopment that's coming to the area, and I think the board should understand these things.
So you're saying this will be consistent with what you
With
propose
the
there?
overlay zoning, yes. So the idea is that this is going to be a very walkable, very pedestrian-friendly hamlet, the densest portion of the hamlet, and that buildings have to be closest to the street like the Southampton villages and every other downtown. 30-foot setback, which is in the underlying zoning, would spoil that connection with the street and protect,
So why doesn't this property benefit from that now? Is that zoning not in place yet?
that zoning is in place. It's adopted in 2015. The hinge on that zoning is that there has to be infrastructure done for the whole area, and currently the town, the master developer, the county, and the state are working together to bring in the sewage treatment plant. So there are few properties that have an opportunity to utilize the benefits of the overlay zoning by connecting to, to Riverhead, potentially to Riverhead Sewer District. Paul the property owner is very fortunate that the diner has enough gallonage that he can build the building with the intent of the overlay zone without actually making an application under overlay zone.
Okay, but you said that so that there's infrastructure that has to happen, so at some point it will be implemented so that this overlay district is going to be available.
It's not active yet.
So fully available.
They haven't done.
I understand. So, but when that happens, then it may be that the people who are looking to do similar types of
Yes.
projects may not need relief from us? Is that
Yes,
accurate?
exactly. As well, they may, if they're not doing what, or they want to do something else, then
Sure.
either underlining or overlay zone allow. So it is kind of important that we, working with the master developer and the town, we all felt that whatever redevelopment is happening in Riverside, it should be with the intent and goals set up in the Riverside Revitalization Action Plan and the overlay district zoning.
Okay.
I guess that's about it.
Okay, very good. We'll
Okay.
appreciate your comments.
Oh, one more thing.
Yes.
When the new zoning was adopted, the full secra was done on it. So right now, there is only site-specific EAF that has to be done, all the traffic, everything was already,
For the overall project?
Yes.
But we have to go through our
Okay,
process
I'm
for this
just mentioning
application. I appreciate that.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Thanks. Just one copy for everybody?
Yeah,
Okay.
and a couple extra.
Okay, just have to swear you in.
Okay.
Okay, if you can state your name and address.
My name is Vincent Taldone. I live at 219 Flanders Boulevard in Flanders.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. I'm here tonight as president of the Flanders Riverside Northampton Community Association, which is the largest community organization in the area, which has, for most of its nearly 20-year life, fought for the redevelopment of this area. So we are very excited and very happy to see this application coming before you. You have our letter of support. That's our formal request for positive decision. But I just want to make clear that we have been involved in a community-based project, which is unheard of really anywhere, where development first is discussed and reviewed by the members of the community. We've had many, many public hearings. The style of the buildings, the setbacks that we just discussed, the pedestrian-friendly flow, all of that over the past number of years has been explored. When that overlay zone was passed, I was here in this room, and the board stood with us, and we had a roaring round of applause from the community, which is very rare for a development proposal. Nonetheless, I just want to say that this project itself came to us. So our community association has seen it. We're aware of it. We've asked questions. We love it. And we want you to know that that's our position, and we hope you can support this and in the most expeditious way possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, just need to swear you in. If you can state your name and address.
Okay, Cities Barrios, 9 Arbor Lane, Hampton Bays, New York, 11946.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
I'm sorry, I need you to spell your name for me.
Siris, Barrios, Barrios.
Thank you.
Okay, if you can
Great.
tell us your comments.
Sure. My name is Cities Barrios. I'm the community liaison for the Riverside Rediscover Project. I've been working with a number of residents over the last 3 years and helping to revitalize Riverside. So I just want to express on behalf of the community, because we have a lot of senior citizens that want to come out and a lot of members, but just voice on behalf of them that we support this project. I know from my office and just in the community, there's a lot that happens on that traffic circle, and this building is welcome because this will help put more eyes on that traffic circle in terms of the activities that happen. I mean, the illicit activities that happen there. So we are just here to express our support. This building is a pride for this community. That diner's been sitting there for a number of years empty, like many of the other buildings. So we are just very happy to see the quality of design, and just want to express our support on behalf of the community and myself as a Southampton resident that goes through that traffic circle all the time, like many of you. So just here to express that support.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for your comments. Good evening, just have to swear you in as well.
Hi, my name is Sandy Adams. I live at 525 Riverley Avenue, number 90, in Riverhead.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I certainly do.
Okay, if you can tell us your comments.
My comments are that living so close to the traffic circle, and I'm also the secretary on the Franca board. This building that's being applied for the variance, we hope you make a positive decision. This is going to give the beautiful rendition that we saw of this building is going to give a whole new face to our community instead of the empty diner, where my daughters did prep work at Howard Johnson.
Wow.
And the rundown Getty Station that the owner didn't take care of when it
Yep.
closed. And,
Yep.
you know, it's going to give a whole new start, a whole new look, and a new face for our community now that the traffic circle is almost completed. I think drainage work still needs to be done, but we hope you approve this start for us.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, we can state your name and address, please.
My name is Angela Huneault, Huneault. I'm at 121 Nassau Street, Flanders, New York.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And I'm very happy to see all the comments from the community. It's great.
So I've lived here for over 30 years, and I grew up, I went to Howard Johnson's, had many lunches there with great aunts and uncles. When this whole revitalizing Riverside came about, I was asked to speak as a Flanders resident, as a graduate of the Riverhead High School, as a mother who's raising children in the area. My children are 23 and 21, and I want to see them stay, and they're looking to leave. They're looking to go to Florida and elsewhere. So one thing I had said at the end of speaking that evening was that we are a diamond and we're going to start to shine. So with your approving this, it is going to start, we're going to start sparkling because it's time, and it's the joy, it's the excitement, it's what we need. It's been in disarray for so long, if that is the correct word, for so long. So I thank you. And as soon as we can get this going, the community is just ready. We're itching. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Okay, let's have to swear you in. If you can state your name and address.
Anna Santa Croce, 1334 North Sea Road, number 5, Southampton, New York, 11968.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I just have a question about this. First of all, there's two questions mainly. How many properties are going to be bought out in general from this? Like, I think
When
it's
you say bought out, what does that mean?
Are any, previously owned properties, like whether you're a residential owner?
The applicant is the owner of the property.
Oh, no, I mean, just in Riverside, there's this is
Yeah.
almost like a...
You gotta talk to the.
You have to speak to the Franca
Yeah.
people who are all here.
I mean, is it like...
No,
Different
not now,
time.
not now. And Anna, we're here related to a particular application. And
Right, the
and I
Riverside,
pre-
sure.
No, and I
No, just
appreciate,
this specific
Just
property,
this
not the
specific-
Riverside project.
Sure.
yeah,
Just the one.
Right.
One.
Sure.
yeah, okay, so if you
Oh, okay.
have comments about.
And then
this
another
particular
question that I
property.
did have about the form-based, I know that's usually for pedestrian friendliness, which I like a lot. I'm an avid walker. I'm known on my job as the walker of North Sea. But, I was wondering, I could always stop in and find out more about it. But those were my two questions about, is the form base going to be grid-like? Is it going to be like?
Again, you can go to all the people who just spoke, and they'd be able to answer your questions. We're just here to hear a variance application.
Mr. Taldon is a wonderful individual.
Yep.
He'll give you his number.
You
Sure,
have-
he'd be glad to speak with you.
Yeah, okay. All right, Anna, do you add anything else? That's it. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Hello.
Yes, I can just swear you in. If you can state your name and address, please.
Susan Tucci, 23 Golden Leaf Trail, Flanders, New York.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a lifelong resident of Flanders. I've lived there my whole life, and I agree with you when you say that building, the diner, has been vacant for a long time. I'd like to add it's been a huge eyesore, a vacant eyesore. It's the first thing you see as you're coming into Southampton town. They're talking about the sidewalks that were just put in. I can't believe how excited I was over sidewalks. I pulled over, stopped, and took pictures of it and posted it on Facebook. And then I said, how sad is that? How sad is that I'm that excited over a sidewalk?
Right.
Because right past that beautiful new sidewalk is this horrible-looking building. That whole area needs to be revitalized. I work in that area. The traffic that is there I've said it over and over again, is not the traffic that we want to track. This building coming in, I saw the rendition of it, beautiful. That's the type of traffic, the people that's going to pull into this community. We need this in the worst way. I don't think anything he's asking for is unreasonable. Everything fits the the whole look and feel that we're trying to, the revitalization is trying to move forward with. And I really hope that this would be approved because we really do need it in the community.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Okay, if not, we have to coordinate secret. So this public hearing is not being closed this evening. It is going to continue on a new date. So Katie, we have to figure out when we're going to adjourn it to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna definitely look into whether or not we can use the secret from the overall project. I don't think we can.
I don't think we can.
The plan, if they're in front of the planning board, when we just send it over to the planning board?
I don't know. What's his name? Paul, can you come back up?
Just give the planning board lead agency?
I know you said you were before the planning board, but do you have an application before them? Are they gonna coordinate with us, or is your first step with us?
I have the application in with them.
Okay.
So they have a full application in. However, the first step was to refer to the ZBA.
Right, right, okay.
But we're in that queue. As
Okay.
far as, just to touch base, and again, you'll definitely fact check this, but the binding finding statement that's secret for the overlay district,
Yeah.
that could be very helpful to say
Well,
the
that's what I'm
least.
hoping.
Very helpful to say.
You know, I mean, that's
Because
the
it
thing.
brings
it's
into account the specific property.
Okay.
Okay.
But you have to comply with whatever the rules are in terms of exactly what you have to submit to us. I mean, you can
Absolutely.
always supplement it with
Yep.
the documentation that you've already got.
Yes.
Let's find out. Maybe tomorrow you can follow up with Claire, or is she the planner you've been talking to?
Yes,
All right,
Claire.
and I'll follow up
Claire
with
and
Claire.
Kyle, so.
Because I was going to say, put it off for a month to coordinate SECRA, and usually we just do a lead agency resolution, but if we can somehow piggyback off that SECRA, we should have them come back and say so. So maybe, tomorrow you call Claire, I'll call Claire,
I'll find out immediately.
and then I'd bring them back in a month, because usually it takes 30 days to coordinate. If we could use that SECRA, we wouldn't even have to do that.
Yeah, but we can't, we have a problem with our calendar on March 1st. We don't have room for any more applications.
Okay.
So I
what
think
is-
we have to do March 15th.
Okay.
Yep.
But I would say come back. Usually we just put on a lead agency resolution, but if we can use that, you might as well just come back.
Okay,
So,
Yep.
but let's touch base with Claire so we can, if we have to coordinate, we can get that out sooner rather than later.
all right, very good.
All
Thank
right,
you.
so then I'd recommend adjourning it to,
I'll get March 15th. Okay, so folks, so all of you understand, there will be a new date, March 15th, for continuation of the public hearing. We're dealing with the secret aspect of the application. Now, probably it will be on March 15th, but I know there's a lot of people here. If maybe one of you could call Candace on that day, not all of you, so as to not overwhelm her, just to make sure it hasn't been adjourned, that would be very much appreciated. Oh, or you can call I don't know, Paul, if you have contacts with these folks, and maybe they can call you as well. Okay, we're instead. Okay, thank you. All right. All right, so, I'm sorry, yep.
Vince Taldone again. Couldn't it possibly be laid over to the 15th so that we can clarify? Perhaps you don't need a month or 2 months to do the environmental review. That holds up everything for almost 2 months, because planning can't do anything. So if there's a possibility that this is not really a lengthy process because of the environmental review that was already done, maybe this can be closed at the next meeting.
I think that's unlikely, Vince, because one way or another, secret's going to have to be done.
well, Vince is saying if we find out that
No.
that the secret review's already
Right,
been
it's
done.
already
then
done by planning.
Which I believe it has. And if it hasn't, then you could always lay it over again. But if you don't put it on the 15th, the next meeting, then it can't be on the next.
It's up to the board. I mean, if we don't have a.
Just my
it's-
request.
it's- It's gonna be a quick hearing
Paul,
either way.
can you come back up? Sure. Okay, so the alternative to March 15th would be February 15th, our next meeting. We do have a little bit of room on that agenda.
Great.
And so this would allow you to find out
Yeah,
whether in
I'll
fact.
know everything tomorrow.
Okay. All right, so that's
So
what we're going to do
February
instead.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I would move that we adjourn the application of 20 Riverlay Corp. For all purposes this evening until our February 15th meeting.
Second.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. Before we go to the next application, I want to go back to an application that's on for decision tonight, which is the application of Hefter. The application of Hefter was, at our last meeting, we had a discussion about the application. There was a request on behalf of the applicant to have an amendment to the application to add a fence. We directed the applicant, we decided to instead have the applicant do a new application. So that part of it is done. However, I have a decision ready tonight for their application that has been kicking around for a while. And if you remember, those of you who were here at the last public hearing, at the last meeting, or actually a while ago, I think it was towards the end of last year, we had a discussion as to whether we wanted the applicant to have a Conservation Board permit before we rendered a decision. And what happened was, we ultimately decided that we would wait on a decision until there was a Conservation Board permit issued. Subsequently, we got a memo from downstairs, basically stating that it wasn't really necessary with this particular application to wait for a Conservation Board.
With any particular application.
Yep. And so in any case, so I have a decision for tonight, but before we have an offer decision, I wanted to make sure that a majority of this board are okay with voting without a Conservation Board permit. We had told the applicant that we would wait, but subsequently we got additional information. And Keith was the person who was raising this issue, which is a really important issue to raise, which is we need to have more consistency with how we deal with applications that require Conservation Board permits, as to when they're required before we render a decision, or when we'll accept an initial finding from the Conservation Board instead. So anyway, Katie, would you like to add something on
Yeah,
this?
I'm going to reiterate my recommendation that as long as we have a conditional approval, you can proceed with rendering decisions. I mean, that was Marty's position, that's my position. Otherwise, people will be waiting indefinite amounts of time to secure a wetlands permit.
So Keith, wanted to know your thoughts about this.
After further discussion from the past meeting, it's come to light that downstairs and downstairs and to my left is comfortable with the fact that as long as they have a conditional permit, that we can move forward. So I myself am prepared to participate in the decision-making process this evening, because I'm under the impression that they do have a conditional
They do.
permit at this time, so
Yes.
therefore, I'll move ahead.
You're okay. So what the conditional permit means, just to make the record clear, is that they got a permit from the Conservation Board that requires the applicant to do certain things. Among those things, I do remember during the prior public hearing, is that they were going to have to put in covenants and restrictions on the property. And one thing that the applicant indicated during the public hearing is that they were a little concerned about recording documents without having approval from this board in place first. And so that was their concern, and just, even though they had that concern, we kind of told them informally we didn't have an issue with the underlying relief, but there was this other issue with the Conservation Board permit. So anyway, I just wanted to make that clear. Are we okay voting on it tonight?
I am. Yes.
Okay, then we'll vote on it tonight. I just wanted to have all that clear on the record.
All right, with that being said, then move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is Robert T. Rothwell Funeral Home, LLC, 20 Pound Fork Avenue, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-224-2-41.9. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-115C, continuance for a principal front yard setback from the existing 24.4 feet to 13.8 feet for a proposed roof over an existing landing wheelchair ramp and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Yep.
Is this your folder here? Are these yours? Yep.
It is.
Oh, could you sit over here, sir?
Oh. Just so we can hear you better.
Yeah.
Okay,
Kristen Gaynor,
great. Just need to swear you in,
Yep.
so if you can state your address.
30 Newberry Lane, Southampton.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so if you can tell us about the application.
The Scott Rothwell Funeral Home, as it's going to be known, has just undergone a huge facelift. I don't know if anybody's driven past, but
I've been inside.
yeah. And so in doing this, we created a wheelchair ramp because the place never really had any kind of ADA accessible facilities. And we put in ADA bathrooms, and we built this beautiful ramp going up. And then we had a little discrepancy on the plan, I'm going to be honest, and we kind of built out a little bit, and we thought, isn't that nice? You can sit there, the handicap can sit there waiting for their car. And then the architect came back from vacation and said, I made a mistake on where you could go to on the elevations, and so that started this whole thing. It was kind of very organic in the way it started. We just thought it would be great to have a place for handicapped bereavers to sit there and wait for the car to show up. So that's where we are.
Okay, so basically, it was built.
It wasn't finished.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
but-
own, yeah.
But it was built in a way that was different than what had been, I guess, intended. So you have,
The plan showed it coming all the way out on the elevation, because the elevation wasn't changed and there was no measurements on it, so we deferred to the elevation, and it showed it landing on the end of the steps.
okay,
So we have built it, and we've left it in such a way that if we don't get the variance, we can always cut it back. But Michael Benacasa told me to just leave it there and figure out what happens.
okay.
So, but
So you'd like us to approve the relief.
Yep.
This is to help handicapped people get in and out of a funeral home.
it's getting out, in and out of the funeral home, but more importantly, it's, they would have to sit inside the building, and there's no real windows in there. So that the car would have to park at the end of the handicap ramp or van, and the driver would have to come in and help the person come down the ramp, and that car is going to be sitting in the driveway the whole time. So, it's kind of helped everybody there too, in that situation, yeah.
Okay. Have you heard from any of your neighbors?
I have.
Okay.
They've all basically said, love what you did to the place, finish it off, great, we love it. Everybody's very excited. I've been hearing, my insurance brokers in Hampton Bays, I went in there, and one of the brokers came out and thanked me for cleaning the place up. I've heard from old friends in Hampton Bays saying, love what you did to the place. So I'd like it if we could just finish it off and get it done.
Okay. The actual setback relief is from existing 24.4 to 13.8.
Right.
So it's still more than 10 feet from, what would be the front yard setback.
From the yeah.
So, and this actual measurement is the setback from Ponquag Avenue.
The actual measurement is the setback from it's a couple of feet in from the sidewalk. Sidewalk runs perfectly parallel with the property line, and there's a monument there that we measured off of, and we came back. And yeah, we're less than 10, we're more than 10 feet.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah.
I don't have any other questions. Are there any other questions, members of the board? Okay. Is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard in connection with the application of the Robert T. Rothwell Funeral Home LLC? If not, Helen.
Is the next meeting okay?
Yep.
We'll have a hearing for you, a decision for you on that date. And I just want to tell you, you did a beautiful, beautiful job. I went through the whole place with Mrs. Scott, and everybody in the neighborhood, I live in Hampton Bays.
Yeah.
We're all very grateful for you, for what you've done, for all the people who, for many, many years, have used your facility.
Thank you very much. I'm sure the owners will love to hear that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Second her motion.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill? Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
And she got something for me? No, not this one. All right, never mind. I'm sorry. Item 4 on the agenda, Deborah H. Tennyson, Feinstein, 29 Weesuck Avenue, in East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-342-1-1. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed overhang on the westerly building, boat storage and office building. 1, 330-115C, continuance for a principal front yard setback of 34.4 feet, where 38.4 feet is existing. 2, 330-34, business district table of dimensional regulations for a total lot coverage of 29.1%, where 20% is permitted, and 330-84D pyramid height for a proposed encroachment in the amount of 42.1 cubic feet and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening, just have to swear you in if you can state your name and address.
Debbie Tennyson of Feinstein, 29 Wiesek Avenue, East Quad. And yes, I swear to.
Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Okay, very good. If you can tell us about your application.
Okay, my boatyard has been around since 1920, circa 1920. And the setbacks at that time, I don't even know if they had any setbacks. The addition that I would like to put on, the overhang, actually, we started it already, didn't know I needed a permit, but it's not finished, is so that there's an overhang so that when someone with disability comes in, they won't get wet, because before it was just a straight building and the water just came down. So that was the intention, and also to make it look better, because before it was pretty ugly. And we're not as close, this showroom is not as close as our home, so it's not the closest thing.
Stand in front of the mic.
So it's not the closest thing to the road, and we live on a dead end.
Okay. So the actual relief is principal front yard setback 38.4 to 34.4, 4 feet, which is, to me, we'll see if anybody's here, but it seems pretty modest. And then lot coverage relief. Lot coverage relief 20% to 29.1%, and then pyramid relief of 42.1 cubic feet of pyramid relief, which is very, very small. Tiny.
Very small.
Probably a little piece of this table.
And I happen to own the property next door.
Right, right. Well, that's good to know. So of the percentages, the only one that's on the high side is the total lot coverage.
Right, but the overhang is not really the one that's adding so much.
Yeah.
It was accepted before at a previous building.
Well, I'm looking at at your survey, and the metal storage building and the boat storage and office building are really, pretty big.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what's basically causing it. Yeah, those are already there. Yeah, yeah, okay. I don't have any other question, any other questions? Are there any questions from members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Deborah H. Tennyson Feinstein? If not, Keith.
I'm seeing and hearing no one. I'll make a motion to close with a determination on 2:15.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay.
Good.
Item 5 on the agenda is Constantine Roscoe, 218 County Road 39, Tuckahoe, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-159-2-2. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-116, extension. As it relates to Town Code 330-167B, specific types of variances for a proposed 3,600 square foot accessory building / warehouse, which will replace an existing 840 square foot storage building, and relief from Town Code 330-11, residential districts table of dimensional regulations for a proposed total lot coverage of 23%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening. Just have to swear you in. If you can state your name and address.
Tracy Shaleski, JW Consulting, P.O. Box 674, Quorum, New York, 11727.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, if you could tell us why you're here.
Okay, this is an application. Oh, ha. Never going to be easy. SCHLESKE.
Thanks.
No problem. Okay, so this is an application to demolish an existing potato barn, 840 square feet. We want to put up a 36 by 100 accessory building. We're seeking 3% additional lot coverage. The sole purpose of this storage building is storage for the owner's possessions. Right now, he's into car collecting, So he would like some place to put his classic cars. I have some photos to give you guys. Currently, about 3 cars a week access the site. He's not going to, it won't be for the purpose of selling cars. He's not going to turn it into something like that. Again, purely collector's items. I have posting photos for you guys.
Okay, you need to submit them to our attorney.
Sure. So, posters and site photos. So you can see in the photos of the posting that,
Is this just one packet?
yeah, that's just one packet. Sorry, guys.
Okay. I just wanted to also clarify, so this is an extension. There's an existing building and a proposed warehouse, or 2 existing buildings. So this is, I believe, an expansion of a non-conforming use. Is that accurate?
We went back and forth about it, and we decided that it was just going to be an accessory building, and we were only going for a variance on lot coverage.
Okay. Katie, have you taken a look at this application?
I did. I'm trying to remember, Candace, because I forgot my notes on this one. This one, we wrote it up as 33167. And I'm trying to remember, were we treating it as an expansion, or were we treating it as an accessory structure? Do you remember? I mean, we wrote it up as expansion.
Yeah, and the expansion, and so it's a 22% expansion.
Right. That's what I thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's expansion by 22%. The other thing we want to make sure is that there weren't any prior expansions of any of the structures.
No, everything that's on the property right now is CO'd. I think he did come to the board once before to make some alterations to that existing warehouse, the largest building there.
Okay.
The secondary building has been there since prior to 1957. And what we want right now is to make some sort of use out of the space that is occupied by that potato barn.
Well, I just want to make sure you understand the way in which it was written up is an
Yes.
expansion. The maximum expansion of a non-conforming use, when you have either multiple structures on the property or uses on the property that are not conforming, the maximum expansion you can have of all the buildings combined is 50%. So by doing this application, okay, by requesting this relief, if the relief is granted.
Yes.
And I don't have a problem with the relief, just so you understand. I just want to make sure you understand that you're giving, you're taking 22% out of your 50%. In other words, you're going to have 28% left
For further
for further expansion, and that's it.
I feel like the owner is pretty content with the conditions on the site right now. And if he gets this, he's satisfied with
Okay.
what he has. The site's been developed
Yeah.
in an adequate manner as far as he's concerned. He
that-
would like this additional building.
Okay.
You know, as you can see in the photos, there are classic cars that he has. There's, the building that's there is on its last legs. I mean, how it's survived the past 2 hurricanes, I have no idea. It's a huge crack down the center of it.
Okay, well, the only way to get rid of that 50% limitation is to change what's on the property so it conforms to zoning.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure you understood all of this.
Yes.
Okay, because
Yeah.
we wouldn't want you to, 6 months from now, say, well, why did we do this? Because we just gave up something.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. Other than that, I don't have any concerns about the application. I mean, the lot coverage relief is relatively modest. And obviously you have a need for it. Now, there is some discussion that we've had with other applications for expansions of non-conforming uses for classic cars. But, this is basically just a
Well,
building.
it wouldn't just be exclusively classic, it's his possessions. Right now, Mr. Constantine is exploring, the internet with classic cars, but he also enjoys auctions and antiques, and his wife enjoys those kind of things, and they need room.
Well, the times when we've had difficulty with the car collector applications, kind of, is when, you have, buildings, actually primarily the issue is when it's an accessory building that is almost as big or well over 25% of what the main building is. So because this existing building is, well, huge, we don't have any of those issues here.
It's a commercial site.
And that too. And that too. Yeah, yeah.
Listen, as long as she understands, they only got 28% more expansion.
Yep.
I don't have a problem with the
Yeah.
application.
He's
Okay,
concerned
very
with
good.
that.
He's here.
Okay.
This is what he wants.
All right. Any other?
Adam,
Yes.
what about Mr. Benicas's comment at the end?
Let's take a look. Plans and elevations were not available at the time of review.
I dropped
You
them
have
off
it-
earlier this week. I
Okay,
do have
so
another
you
set of
submitted.
plans. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
You got,
very
you
good.
got them, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, you got them. Okay,
Just wanted
very
to
good.
make sure.
All right, thank you. Okay, any other questions from members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Roscoe? If not, Cornelius.
The plans that you dropped off, do you need any relief? Did they cause any relief you needed, or you're good? This is just it?
As far as I know, no, they were okay.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I have an extra set right here if you'd like them.
No, if Candace has a set, I can wait. to
Okay.
get them. No problem. So I'll move to close the public hearing, leaving open, we don't need to leave it open for anything, so we'll have a written decision on. Oh.
No.
2 weeks, you think? Okay. Move to close the public hearing, leaving open for written submissions, with a written decision on February 15th.
Second.
Okay, and that written submission being the planning board referral report. Mr. Kelly?
Yep.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item 6 on the agenda, which is a minor variance review. Ercolani 2012 Gift Trust, 129 Holsey Lane, Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-86-3-8. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-115D1 and D2 continuance for a principal minimum side yard setback of 11.3 feet where 12.99 feet is permitted, and a total side yard setback of 31.1 feet where 32.48 feet is permitted for a proposed one-story addition with covered patio on a non-conforming lot, and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction, and because this is, I wanted to add something for this minor variance. We did get 2 written submissions on this. One was from an adjacent property owner who just had concerns about dark sky compliance with the lighting on the property. And then we got a letter from the agent for the applicant agreeing to any condition of relief that compliance with dark skies be made. So I did include that in the decision. If you guys think that's relevant, then there will be a decision later on tonight.
Of course, they have to comply with dark sky.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. There is no public hearing, so the public realizes that.
So I will have a decision at the end of the evening.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Item 7 on the agenda is 2287 Montauk Highway LLC, 2287 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-86-1-2. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1, 330-34, Business Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for a principal front yard setback of 22 feet from Church Lane, where 30 feet is required, and a total lot coverage of 20.2%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted for a proposed 2-story building. 2, 330-83G3 yards to allow 1 additional parking space to be located within the transitional front yard, where the minimum required transitional front yard shall be 20 feet is all non-residential zones where the subject property joins all other streets, i.e. collector or minor streets. 3, 330-109B4C, fences, walls, accessory driveway structures, and clotheslines, to allow a proposed dumpster to be located in a front yard where all containers shall be located in the rear or side yard and shall not obstruct access to utilities. 4, 330-30, general regulations to allow a total lot coverage of 20.2 feet, 20.2%, where no more than 20% of the lot shall be covered by main and accessory buildings, and a total lot coverage of 65.1%, where no more than 60% of the lot shall be covered by any, by impervious or paved surfaces, including building structures, driveways, parking and loading areas, walkways, patios, and the like. And 5, 330-100D, exemptions and waivers of parking and truck loading space requirements. And Town Code 330-95, schedule of off-street parking space requirements for non-residential uses for a waiver of the requirement to construct 6 additional off-street parking spaces and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Evening.
Good evening. For the applicant, John Bennett and Reed, 212 Woodman Lane, Southampton, New York. This is the Bridgehampton Saunders Realty site. I'm sure you're all aware of it. And that's a very long reading of the notices, but there are just a lot of relief, but that's, in my opinion, they're all fairly de minimis. And a lot of it results from the fact that this property was originally developed in the OD zone, district, which had some more liberal requirements in terms of how you can develop it. So I think parsing through these sections that we're talking about, you'll see that really the primary thrust here is to take an existing one-story building and enlarge the footprint a little bit, maybe by about 700 square feet at most, and put a second story on it. While there is parking relief required, most of that parking relief is going to come not from this board, but from the planning board by means of an agreement to have some of the parking take place across the street at the Newman Village. We've been, reached a tentative agreement with the owners of that facility across the street. And under, I've got the code sections for you here. Under 330-100H, the planning board can approve a site plan with a lesser number of parking spaces, providing a demonstration that has been made that the use of parking on another lot would adequately serve the parcel. So with the exception of this one parking space that we want to put here in a transitional yard, that's parking space number 20, all the additional parking will take place across the street, and the planning board has the authority to do that. So this is not the typical parking variance that you see, because it's not going to further burden the property in the main. It'll be taking place across the street. And the planning board, there has been a pre-submission hearing with the planning board. There were, no one came to the pre-submission hearing. I'll get into a little later of some changes that we've made to the project, primarily the change of the design as a result of planning board input. So let me dive right into it. Those prefatory remarks. So we're adding, the existing site has the main Saunders building, and behind that there's a second Saunders building, which is a one-story building. Saunders has been very successful. That's a good thing. They're a local real estate business, and I say that in a very pointed way because Saunders is locally owned. The principals are locals. All the employees and brokers are locals. They put money into this economy. I don't know if you're aware of it, but a lot of the major operating real estate firms out here, Sotheby's, Corcoran, et cetera, are owned by very large out-of-town corporations. This is a a local business with a couple of sites. They've been very successful, but I think that's important for you to look at because absent something terrible happening here or something that really doesn't, really rubs you the wrong way, I think this is an opportunity to let this local owned, controlled business grow, and the money is made here, it stays in the community. Unlike some of the larger real estate firms where a lot of it goes to very large corporations. Again, I'm not sure you're aware of that, but a lot of these companies, local real estate companies, are owned by out of state, out of town. Some have international ownership. So anyway, you have right now the main Saunders building is a one-story building. Behind that, there's another one-story building. What we'd like to do is to take that building down and put a second story on it, adding about 1,383 square feet in total. So what are we here to ask for your help for? There's a property with 2 front yards. In the old parlance, we used to call that almost a built-in practical difficulty. So you have, on either side, you have 2 front yards. It narrows down, it's somewhat irregular shaped. So in order to construct this 2-story building, we'd like some front yard relief from the required 30 feet to 22 feet from church lane, excuse me. Lane, thank you. The building itself, and I think this is really important, it will comply with the transitional yard requirement. I think that's an important thing because one of the things that you look at in terms of front yards is not only the front yard setback but the transitional yard. Interestingly, again, because this has 2 front yards, it has 2 transitional yards. My experience, most of the times where you want to see the transitional yard is along these secondary or primary highways to keep some of the development backed off. But I don't think because Church Lane is not a secondary, is a secondary road, that you should have the same issue in terms of front yard setbacks with a commercial property in a HO, formerly OD zone. But in any event, we meet the transitional yard requirement for the, it's not a transitional yard in the sense that it's on top of, you're moving from one zone to the other. It's a transition yard required in the front yard for these commercial uses. So we meet the transitional yard of 20 feet, but we need some relief for the actual front yard setback from 30 to 22. And we don't think that's significant with the impact on the character of the area. As you can see, a lot of this area of Bridgehampton was developed relatively, there's some very old structures here. Some of them hug the lot lines, some of them are on the lot lines, a lot of pre-existing non-conforming uses, setbacks in that area. So that's one thing we need there. The lots to the east and west are in the HO zone, again, formerly OD zone. Presently, there's one parking space located within the 20-foot transitional yard. It's a portion of space number 19. This is part of a space that's, it was in an approved site plan. Remember, it was originally OD, and then there was a subsequent site plan approved. We'd like another space in the transitional yard. It's space number 20. So we need that relief, and we need that relief to keep for having parking in the front yard and within the transitional yard. The dumpster, we'd like to put the dumpster in the front yard. Really, again, because of the sandwich between the front yard requirements, we have what we would call in the old days a almost automatic practical difficulty. There's really no other place to put the dumpster. There is a 18-foot separation requirement for buildings in the OD zone, which is what we're holding. The dumpster is impractical here. We have to have obviously some way to get the machines in to pick up the dumpster, the contents of the dumpster. So we'd like to put it here. The site plan shows it screened by an existing arborvitae hedge. If the board wanted any other screening, of course, we would happily do that. So that's where we are with that dumpster requirement. The idea is to locate it at the end of this space so there can be access and generally near the parking. There's really no other place on the site to put it. So again, that creates our difficulty there. It'll be accessible for waste removal in this location. And again, be screened by existing vegetation, but if the board wants any additional vegetation, we can do that. In order to, the HO zone has two coverage sections. And again, remember, this property was originally developed when the property was in the OD zone, and the OD zone had a 30-foot coverage, building coverage limitation. Handing up for your consideration a copy of the original building permit for the front building and the storage building. Storage building is the one we're going to raise and put a second story on. And as you can see, when that permit was issued, the property was in the OD zone. And again, this property was developed originally and created when the property was in the OD zone. So what do we need in terms of this coverage requirements limit relief? I think they're de minimis, and they're something that, if you granted it, would be imperceptible to the human eye, certainly to the casual observer. The proposed building coverage is 20.2, that's for the building coverage. 20% is required, so that's, as a matter of law, a de minimis variance request. And the total lot coverage in the HO zone, that's lot coverage in the, unlike most coverage sections you're dealing with that deal with buildings, with the exception, of course, of the rear yard structures requirements on residential lots that you see all the time, requests for relief for that, and typically are granted as long as people aren't too piggish. In the HO zone, you have a coverage limitation for structures and driveways, et cetera. We're at 63%. 60 is permitted. We'd like to go to 65.1. And again, that's something that would be essentially pretty imperceptible.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time we actually dealt with that particular section of the code.
It's the first time I've dealt with it.
I don't recall another time.
It's the first time, in the OD zone, it would be, coverage would be just buildings, and then in the other zones, most coverage generally is defined as coverage by buildings. This is a section that's, I think it's fairly unique, with the exception of those structure and building coverages that you see on residential lots for the principal rear yard. This is a coverage section that is in the HO zone. I was, when we were drafting the variance request, this is one that surprised me when I came upon it, but it's there. So, but in any event, we need fairly minimal relief. 63 exists. We'd like to go to 65.1. So I submitted a copy of the building permit application for when the property was originally developed. We would have had 30% coverage. It's unfortunate if you think about it. A lot of these, if you're in residential zones, a lot of time you take along with you sort of almost automatic grandfathering. So that doesn't happen in the commercial zones. But if you look back at the history of this property as when it was developed, we wouldn't be here for a lot of the stuff, but certainly not the lot coverage requests. So we hope you'll agree with us that it's a minimal request in terms of coverage. Both for the building, it's 20.2 as opposed to 20. And we're at 63 for the overall coverage. We'd like to go to 65.1. Now, this off-street parking requirement, again, we need these additional spaces, but with the exception of the one in this yard, which we think is perfectly suited in terms of location, we're going to do that across the street. There was a
And you mentioned there was like
Part of the planning.
discussions with the adjacent property owner?
Both Alan Sosney and Craig Gibson, or I guess, are they co-ops or condos? I think they're condos. They're on the board. Anyway, we've had discussions with them. We've established a price. Obviously, we didn't want to fully pen it until we had, the approvals in line, but they would be subject to those approvals.
But you're confident you're going to get them, that you'll reach an agreement?
Mr. Sosney and Mr. Gibson have never misrepresented anything to me many years of doing deals with them, so
Okay.
hopefully that'll continue.
Okay.
Price just went up.
But
Yeah,
it's not something, I've said to them, now this is what you're gonna hold to, but, you know, but in any event, the deal, if you wanna make it subject to that as well, that's fine. I can't get there without the planning board's agreement.
No, I
in any event, so.
understand. I just wanted to make sure that kind of
It's in the
framework of
works.
this is all.
It's in the works, yeah, and we've disclosed that to the planning board.
Okay.
The elevations that you have, in terms of the transitional yard, I thought it'd be interesting too. And again, you know, people say, you know, you gave it to this guy, you gotta give it to me, et cetera, et cetera. I know it's easy to, it's harder than a lot of lawyers think to invoke the Knight versus Amelkin rule in terms of having granted relief for one party as opposed to the other. But I give you this variance, which was granted across the street at Newman Village, just for consideration of how the board has viewed generally these transitional yard variances.
Well,
It was
we love information in our prior decisions. It's very, very enjoyable reading for us.
I'm always very delicate the way I,
Yep.
hopefully,
Each case
unless I've got
stands on its
something
own merits.
really dead on point. But the board has granted, it's old, but you've granted transitional yard relief
Yep.
as close as across the street. I did want to show you the elevations that you have. And, you know, people can go back and forth about what a zoning board of appeals should take into account when looking at aesthetics. You know, when I'm pushing a building that I don't think some of the ZBA members say, I say you shouldn't even deal with that. When I'm trying to gain even more information for you to, ammunition for you to grant the variance, I of course say you should look at these things. But in any event, one of the things, what I'm going to show you, and I'll pass these around, is are elevations showing these illustrate the elevations, these are renderings, these illustrate the elevations that are submitted with the application, and the others are the elevations that the planning board prefers. I'm not sure I have enough for myself, I think. Okay, so if you were to open up your package, which you don't need to, I don't think so unless you want to, these are renderings of what the proposed these are renderings of the proposed elevations for the building in your packet. I don't think the planning board was happy with that. Remember, the planning board has, on a commercial application, they are in effect the architectural review. It has to be referred to the architectural review board for their advice, but the planning board sits as the ARB in effect. So we had an alternate design, which the planning board felt was more in keeping with the Bridgehampton vernacular. So to the extent that that's helpful for you, I think hopefully that's important. And again, we did have a pre-submission conference, and they expressed a preference for what we're calling, perhaps euphemistically, the modified design. Obviously, a radically different design, but this is what they've success. So we don't think, now this is in a office district, formerly office district, now HO zone. There are some residential parcels behind it, so residential area behind it, but people were aware when purchasing that they were abutting a business zone. But it does speak to why another reason why we modified the building to try to give it a more typical East End residential look, even though it's an office building. And it's something that Saunders has done in the past. I think if any of you are familiar with the Saunders building in East Hampton, as you come into the East Hampton, I guess that's on the north side, it pretty much looks like a single-family residence. Just going through very quickly the old lesson of homiletics. You tell people what you're going to say, you say it, and then you tell them what you told them. There's already a one-story building there. We seek to enlarge it a wee bit and go up 2 stories. Total adding 1,383 square feet. We need some transitional yard relief for some parking and the dumpster. The building itself will meet the transition yards, but we do need some front yard relief. And some coverage requirement, some coverage relief from the required 60% overall coverage. We're already at 62.3. We want to go to 65. Again, I humbly suggest that you wouldn't be able to see that, casual observer. And a building coverage to 20.2, where 20 is permitted. So the building itself will have a footprint that's only 691 square feet larger than the existing building. Of course, it'll be 2 stories, but, so it's not a huge footprint increase. Again, we're trying to locate the parking across the street as much as we can, and I think that's important because it will, even though we're asking for help to increase the building, by its nature, because the parking will have to occur, at least 6 of the spaces will have to occur across the street, that will limit the impact, the parking, and the vehicular use on this lot. There's a long-form EAF. I think I'd probably be pushing it to suggest these are merely yard variances. Pushing it into a type 2 is probably an unlisted action, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking,
Yeah,
especially
and
because
the-
of the expansion of the building, which
Yeah,
is going to
and
be,
I'm sorry.
and I was going to say, especially with the expansion of the building.
And the planning board, somebody's going to have to make a determination of significance. I just assumed it'd be the planning board, but I didn't want to be that presumptuous. But if you guys want to do it, that's fine too.
Okay, well, we got to coordinate, so.
You don't have to with an unlisted action, but you probably as a custom would, so.
Yes,
We're
we
going
would.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Especially since you already have an application with them, right?
Yeah, we've had a pre-submission hearing. No one came,
Okay. I'll talk to Claire.
so.
See, I always, when it comes to secret, I'd rather not have, I'd rather us to be more thorough and not less, because.
That's probably good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because not doing secret entirely, well, would taint the whole process, as you know.
The courts have held that seeker is a procedural and a substantive statute, so, yeah, it's
Yep.
hard to criticize anyone for being more thorough. And when in doubt, coordinate, I guess.
Yep.
So you really can't, you really can't close it?
Oh, we can't.
No, I was just
can't.
saying the obvious, I was,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
you know,
right,
You have
right.
to wait for.
Yeah,
planning
so,
board.
I mean, this
With
is.
that face.
What'd it say?
That
So
face.
this, there are several items of relief, but from my perspective, each of the items of relief are relatively modest. We may have somebody here, I'm not sure.
Okay.
We'll speak about it, but it sounds like it appears that we do, and we'll listen to what that person has to say.
That's why we send out the notices.
Absolutely. But have you heard from any of the neighbors?
I got a call from one of the neighbors who I believe lives across the street.
On Church.
On Church, yep.
Okay,
He's probably here.
okay, very good. Any other questions from members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who'd like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of 2287 Montauk Highway LLC?
Yes, I'm the neighbor across the street.
Okay, no problem. You can have a seat or go to the podium, whatever you prefer. So I just have to swear you in, so if you can state your name and address for the record, please?
Sir, my name is Gerardus Widdershoven. I live at 43 Church Lane in Bridgehampton. I'm a permanent resident here. I mean, I live here full-time. I'm not a weekender.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and
I
nothing but the
swear
truth?
to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Okay, so what,
Widdershoven.
well, that was easy.
My whole life like that. As Mr. Bennett has said, I live across the street at 43 Church Lane, and literally the exit onto Church Lane and the frontage is across from my property. I happen to be lucky and have a pretty long frontage next to the church, so I'm very much aware of the traffic and what goes on at Saunders. And when I bought the property and moved there 7 years ago, Saunders was a new company that was doing nicely, and I must say they've been doing extremely well. You are right in that sense. And during the last 3-4 years, the traffic on Church Lane has really increased, and it all goes into the parking lot at Saunders. When they opened up their new offices in East Hampton within the last year, I thought, ooh, that's going to be a lot of relief because they'll have a lot of space and move a lot of the brokers there. But that has not been the case. It's been as busy as ever, if not busier than ever. All the brokers mostly come down Church Lane and then go into the parking lot in the back. Some come from the front, but there's a lot of traffic all day long. There's like around lunch, in the morning, late evening. I guess brokers go in and out for open houses and then meeting clients, which makes total sense. But Saunders has really grown to be a big company with a lot of traffic. And doing a little research with the paperwork that Mr. Bennett had sent me, I noticed that this originally was done in 2007 when the building changed from a small retail furniture store to Saunders Real Estate. And because of the office space that was converted from the showroom as well as the storage room, there was a certain formula, and the formula was that for every 180 square feet of office space, there's a parking spot needed. So under that formula, they needed 25 spots at that time. They didn't have them and made a deal and bought 8 parking spots, which is apparently was a way, I don't know if that still exists, if you donate money to a certain fund, they are lenient in terms of the parking space. But obviously the parking is a big problem.
Okay. And when you say bought, I want to do clarification here, because that sounds like something unseemly.
Well, that's what it says here on the paperwork I got from
Okay,
Mr.
well, but if they followed a process in order to get a waiver for parking spaces, I just want to be clear that if
There's
they.
a parking district you could pay into in Bridgehampton.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so.
But it's a legal process.
No,
not
I wasn't,
underhanded
of
process.
course not, but I'm just saying the existing situation is already quite short of parking, and that's very visible every day because all the slots are filled, and then there's somebody parks at the front entrance, 4 cars park along the side, and in the summertime, they park along the road on Church Lane. I mean, it happens often, and there's many other people on Church Lane that will attest to this. So by now increasing the small back building by 700 feet, giving it a second story, that's a lot more people and a lot more need for parking space. Now, it sounds lovely that they made an arrangement to get 6 parking spots across the street. Well, across the street is across Montauk Highway. And I know these brokers, especially the ladies in their heels, they're not going to park there and then walk across the street to the post office, to come across the walkway where we've had a lot of accidents lately as well, and then walk back to the building. It's like Candy Kitchen saying.
And the town board is not that I'm minimizing the issue with the danger with walking across.
Oh, they're working on it. I know Mr.
They're-
Schneiderman is.
They're working on it.
No,
They're working
I'm
on it.
happy about that.
It's a larger issue than this.
But those 6 spots across the street might as well be at the station, because it's not really nearby, even though they can look at it, so.
So you're an adjacent property owner?
Yes.
Okay, and where is your property located?
It's at 43 Church Lane.
Is it, which, is it?
It's right across the street.
Just
Right
across the street from
Okay.
their exits.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
From the parking there.
Okay.
So I'm really concerned about the traffic as is, and by improving and giving them more space, I think we're just making the problem bigger.
Okay, so you want us to deny the application?
Yes, I don't think there's a reason for them. I think they're so successful that they should move to a bigger building.
Okay. Can you tell me how this is going to negatively impact your use of your property?
Well, there's a lot of traffic going back and forth.
No, not general, but this particular property, what they're proposing, how that's going to negatively impact your use of your property.
It's just going to bring more cars and more people, and they already can't handle what's happening. So why create more space for more people and more cars?
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Okay, all right. Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
There is a crosswalk, right?
Yeah, but
They're trying to illuminate, or?
the lighting, and they're gonna deal with other issues with the downtown Bridgehampton.
Church Street have no parking on the street?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, can you come back up? I have a question, I don't know. Church Street, is it a no parking zone there, or?
There's no signs, but, you know, most of the yards are open to the houses, and, I mean, there's a little bit of grass that is owned by the city where there's no trees, but
You might want to consider, I don't know what we're gonna do here, but talking to the town board about making that a no parking street.
oh, that was one of my plans, yeah.
I'm just, you
Yeah.
know, 'cause-
No, definitely, yeah.
In this plan, the planning board is, even now, it appears the planning board's making that at Church Street only an exit. So they wouldn't be able to enter from church.
And the issues with.
Well, that's just for.
Well, I mean, there's big arrows right now, but
Yeah,
obviously that's not doing much, you know.
And the issues with traffic and, you know, and parking, but particularly with traffic, are part of the secret process. So this is gonna be looked at, okay? So just so you know.
No, because that specific section of Church Lane, from the baseball field to 27, it's very quiet. It's mostly the residents, because you can only go and make a right going back to town, so no one goes back towards Southampton that way.
Okay.
But because you can go to the parking lot, I see cars going right through and they're making a left on the highway.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck then.
Okay. Would you like to respond?
The only thing I guess I would respond is just anecdotally. I use Church Lane quite often when I'm heading east to west, west to east. I'll just go through the back. I'll start that and go through the back roads of Sagaponack, which I feel entitled to being a local. Dan Ratner published those back roads a long time ago. But,
Yes.
But in any event, I don't think it's fair, respectfully, to talk about this as some traffic generator on Church Lane. A lot of people use Church Lane to get access. You drive down to I guess that's Ocean Road, and then go to the back roads through Sagaponack. So I think it's just a general increase in traffic that you see.
I mean, how much increase in square footage is there from what presently exists?
1,300 square feet. And again,
And
I
how
was
many-
we were very cognizant about this, which is why we decided to use I mean, we sat down and tried to figure this out with some of the planning folks before we even made the application, and the idea was, that was one of the driving forces of trying to put the parking across the street.
Okay. And how many offices are going to be, or do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but I could find that out.
Okay, if you have information.
Yeah, how many
on that,
desks, I guess.
It would be helpful, just so we can
Okay.
understand
Okay.
a little bit better
Very good,
how much
yep.
of an increase of actual
Actual
space.
personnel.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that would be great.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, appreciate it.
But then I guess, no, I was gonna say, yeah.
We got to keep it open. Yeah, got to keep it open. Okay. Any other comments, questions, members of the board? If not, Brian?
What do we need, 30 days, Katie?
Yeah, I think we should put it on for lead agency resolution March 15th.
Yeah, because March 1st is not 30 days.
Correct. And then maybe,
That's September.
and then John can pick a day to come back
say,
after
March.
that.
Whatever you guys wanna do, I don't think there's any.
You want to come on the 15th, is that?
No, I'm saying we could put the lead agency out for the 15th.
Oh, the 15th,
Oh.
I thought it was the first.
And
Okay.
then,
It's gonna take that long? We've already had that pre-application, I submitted the.
well, we got to coordinate. I don't know if, nobody's coordinated, so you
Oh,
need 30
yeah,
days
sure,
to coordinate.
15th, you wanna just have it like as a control, like we did?
That's
with,
fine, then you can come back on the
Mercedes?
15th?
And if it hasn't, everyone hasn't gotten there, we'll just
Okay.
talk to Katie.
Okay.
If that's-
So we'll just leave it
Say,
open.
15th, the
Motion
15th.
for all purposes, 3:15.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a second? Second. Mrs. Zessa?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn? Aye. Mr. Tudhill? Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, have a good night.
Well, see you in a bit.
Oh, you're staying around.
Great. Moving on to item 9 on the agenda. This is Ted with a double D, Levine, 31 Dock Road in Remsenburg/Spearn. Suffolk County Tax Map 900-366-1-2.10. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code. 1, to legalize a front covered porch constructed without the benefit of a building permit. 330-11, residential districts table of dimensional regulations for a principal front yard setback of 75.7 feet where 80 feet is required. 2, to legalize a spa constructed without the benefit of a building permit. 1, 330-11, for an accessory side yard setback of 26.3 feet where 30 feet is required. And 2, 330-76D, placement of accessory buildings and uses in all districts. And 330-83C yards, to allow the spa to remain within the required minimum and total side yard of the principal building. And 3, to legalize the deck constructed around the spa without the benefit of a building permit. 1, 330-11, for an accessory side yard setback of 24.9 feet where 30 feet is required. And 2, 330-76D, placement of accessory buildings and uses in all districts. And 330-83C yards, to allow the deck to remain within the required minimum and total side yard of the principal building and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Just have to swear you in, so if you can state your name and address.
Ed Levine, 31 Dock Road in Remsen.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. So if you can tell us about this application.
So I purchased the home about a little over 8 years ago, I guess, now. And I live in it over the last 3 or 4 years. I live in it full-time. The two structures that we're talking about, the front porch was there when I purchased it.
Did you have an attorney represent you when you purchased the house?
I am an attorney, but I don't practice real estate law, and I did have an attorney represent me at the time, and he never
Is that
picked up.
attorney familiar with zoning and land use law in the town of Southampton?
Apparently not.
Okay.
Who was the attorney?
Albert DeGregoris.
And I only ask the question because, I certainly can understand if you buy a property and there are structures that don't have approvals and you're not informed of it.
Right.
It's particularly difficult, difficult situation to be in. But we rely on attorneys to look out for us and, well.
I recognize that.
Yep.
Excuse me, and you're
Yes.
an attorney too?
I am an attorney. I'm an intellectual property law attorney, yes. Not a real estate lawyer.
Okay.
That's why I hired a real estate lawyer to help me
Yeah.
out here.
Yeah. And just because you're an attorney does not mean you're familiar with zoning and land use.
Right. Exactly, which I'm not. It's not my area. I'm a corporate
Yes.
lawyer.
Okay.
And an IT lawyer. So, anyway, the covered porch was there. It was on the, this is a brand-new survey I had done, but there was a survey when we purchased the home as well, and it was there on that survey as well. As far as the spa location, there was a cement slab that was also there. And I didn't have any reason to understand that there was a problem just putting, and there was a fence, by the way, around it. Not a full fence, but like an aesthetically pleasing looking barrier in the front, so you couldn't see the slab, but it was just a slab of cement. So I guess maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, it looked ideal for me to put a spa there, hired an electrician, hooked it up properly, and we have a,
Did the electrician did the electrical on it and presumably somebody installed it?
yes.
Okay, so you didn't do it yourself?
No, personally, no.
I wouldn't think.
No, and I don't think you would want
Okay.
me to do
But the
that,
people who
especially.
installed it, again, they should have known. They should have known. But, also, whether you're familiar with zoning and land use or not, structures, and spas a structure, need permits. And the only reason, mentioning all of this is because we have too many applications for as-built structures in the town. And so, I try when we have these kinds of applications, and I really appreciate your candor, Ted, because it makes us understand what happened better. But, I want to always understand what happened and how it happened.
Right.
Because that's helpful to us in evaluating the application. Just because an application is for an as-built structure does not mean, because of that, in and of itself, that we are obligated in the law to deny the requested relief. It's one part of a five-part test. But, when we have as-bills, we want to, I generally want to have some testimony from someone familiar with what happened as to how it happened. So I appreciate the fact that you're doing that. And well, one other question I have, who was the electrician, or do you recall?
I don't have, no, I don't remember. He did have to obviously upgrade the electric and get it go all the way from one end of the house to the other, and he's got all kinds of cutoffs and everything. So I've had electricians look at it. I don't think there's an issue with the electricity or anything. There's not a problem with the spa. It's just, and it happens to be aesthetically very nice. It's got shrubbery around it, and my neighbor was over for coffee the other day, and because I have the sign on the lawn, so he was like, "What's this about?" And I told him. He goes, "Doesn't bother me," so. He's not here tonight. I don't think he submitted any letters or anything, but he doesn't, that's the neighbor on the, I guess it's the east side of the house.
Okay.
Okay, and there's, if you look at the property, there's a row of shrubs that hides, it's between him and I anyway, he can't even see anything, but, and then there's shrubbery and landscaping around it that's actually quite nice. So
that's what happened with the spa, and then there is the deck.
And that's the front porch, yes.
The deck is the front porch?
Yes.
Because we have.
Oh, the deck around it, okay.
The
So the spa was in, so then I put, it's literally maybe 6 to maybe 8 inches, 12 inches, maybe at the most, decking around it. That's butts up against inside. It's inside.
And who built that?
I don't remember the builder's name. I can get it for you, but, he.
Yeah, if you can get it for us and get it to in written submission, if you can recall the builder and the electrician. I mean, I think, we would like to have that information in the file, because these people should have helped you. They should have told you you needed a building permit.
It'd be at the building department.
Okay.
Legalize the shed, too.
Yep.
What's that?
Yep, so we have no CO for the shed on the property currently?
The shed was also there.
I understand,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have a CO,
Right.
and before anything happens in terms of finalizing, we haven't made a decision yet, but
Right.
finalizing any decision, that shed, well, you might be able to apply for, looking at its location.
Doesn't need a variance.
Yeah, it doesn't need a variance, you just need to apply for a CO for the shed, a certificate of compliance for the shed.
I believe my expediter, my agent, Jen Smith, has submitted something on that.
Okay, good. Just letting you know, that would be a condition in any decision that we render.
Okay, yes, I believe she's already submitted. And I think there was, I'm not sure based on the size, but they had said something about if it was less than a certain size, it wasn't even an issue.
No, it may be that it's exempt, because certain
Yeah.
sheds are exempt.
Yeah, I mean, it was there, I keep
But if you can look into.
I don't even keep a lawnmower in there, I think, whatever, a wheelbarrow, I think, is in there.
10.2 by 12.2.
Okay.
And let me also, if I just could give you a little more information about the house and the setback on the house. If you go up and down that road that I'm on, Dock Road, my house is probably set back, even with that deck, further by, must be 20 feet than any other house. Certainly more than 20 feet, I think, or 10 or 20 feet more than the home that's to the east of me here.
Right.
And the two homes that are to the west are, the one home here is certainly not set back as far as my house. The other one is way set back because it's a long driveway, so.
Well, here's the good news, okay? The good news about the application
Yes.
is that the amount of relief that you're asking for, whether it be for the the covered front porch, 80 to 75.6, the spa from 30 to 26.3, or the accessory side yard 30 to 24.7, or the relief of the deck is modest in terms of having an impact on the neighbors. Now, the risk one takes in dealing with an as-built situation, where you pay money to somebody to put something up without the permits, is that if in fact it has a significant negative impact on the neighbors, we may deny relief, and then you may have to rip it down. So in this instance, I can't see how it can impact the neighbors, but just so you understand, it could be different if it were practically on the property line.
Well,
So
like I said, except for, I agree, except for the spot, I didn't put the porch there, so I
No, I
inherited
understand,
that.
but the porch was there
yeah.
when you got it, and it's a different circumstance.
Yeah. I did replace the boards to use Trex, though, I will tell you that.
Okay.
It was like rotting away, so.
Yeah,
And that's what's around the
Right,
spot, matching
Yeah, and,
gray Trex.
and you're here to legalize, you're here to get
Yes.
the correct errors, okay?
Yes.
And I appreciate that fact too.
Absolutely.
But I just,
I will also-
This is what we've got to do with as-built. We have to
If I,
have these
respectfully, if
conversations.
I could also provide you guys, I had somebody come in, just as a, sort of as a hardship issue, if I
Yeah.
had to rip all this
An
down.
estimate?
Yes.
Great, please, actually, we would have asked for that, so it's very helpful.
I'll submit that.
Yep.
So, because of the porch, it has the overhang, they would have to rip that down and redo that.
Okay.
They would have to rip the whole understrip, it's like $12,000, something like $12,000.
And that's helpful information
And
for us.
$15,000 to relocate the spa, so
Would that be a financial hardship to you, sir?
it would. Writing $27,000 worth of checks?
Yeah, yeah.
It would be, I know I'm a
It
lawyer.
might not be a financial hardship.
Have you ever met one of those who said
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions from members of the board? Ma'am, you have to come up to the microphone, and you have to be sworn in.
Again?
Croce, 1334 North Sea Road, number 5.
Whenever anyone appears for a public hearing, if it's a different public hearing, they have to be sworn in all over again. Answer the question.
I was just asking Anna Santa Croce, 1334 North Sea Road, number 5, Southampton, New York, 11968.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was just wanted to ask if this is the last one for the night.
No.
Nope, there's one
All
more.
right. All right, that's all I wanted to ask.
Okay. Okay, all right. All right.
Give her an agenda.
Yeah, there are agendas available.
Yes.
They're right there. Okay, all right. All right, so, if there is no other comment, Brian, it's yours.
Seeing or hearing no one and having the lead, I move we close the public hearing for all purposes, leaving it open for written submissions. If you can get us a letter or an email to Candace with the builder and electrician.
Sure.
You don't have to come back in or anything, just send it over
Okay,
to
sure.
Candace. And I will have a decision on our February 15th meeting.
February.
You don't have to come, you can call Candace the next day.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, do we have a second?
So,
Second.
You had a question?
yeah, I just want to get clarification. You want the builder's name, if I can find it?
And the electrician's
And
name.
And the electrician's name, if I
Yep.
can find it, and,
An address form if you got it.
yeah, all the information.
Yep.
And, wasn't there one other thing you?
Well, the shed, we want to make sure.
Oh, the
you follow up
application for
about
the shed. I believe that Jen did that.
Okay, and actually, if you have application paperwork, you can submit that as well.
When do you have?
Okay. Cornelius, I think you seconded?
Second, yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, we got it? We're good?
We're good. Thank
Okay,
you, sir.
no problem. Mr. DeSessa, Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Daly, Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Mr. Hahn. Aye. Chair votes aye. Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
We're going to take a short break, folks.
Item 13 on the agenda, which is a holdover application from the 1/18/18 meeting. It is a 575-541 County Road 39 LLC in Tuckahoe, 575 County Road 39.
Should I proceed?
You may.
Okay. John Bennett and Reed, 212 Lemon Lane, Southampton, New York. We represent the applicant. This is the Southampton Mercedes-Benz dealership. And we were here, I presented probably 90% of the application the last time, but that was a while ago. So just to refresh your recollection, we're here Mercedes recently did a lot line modification that was approved by the planning board with the Elks property. Picked up some property there for additional, it's not really parking in the back, it's for storage. But in addition to that, the program has been to make some changes to the building. And we're here because we need relief from the 15,000 square foot limitations for buildings in HB zone.
Somebody's touching the microphone there.
Forgive me. Is that me?
Yep.
No, it's usually me, so it's fine. Anyway, we put in a lot of evidence that these 15,000 square foot buildings in limitations were the whole legislative history, and the board has recognized that in two prior decisions. Primarily was the fear that you would have these large retail box stores, these downtown busters, and the automobile dealerships don't create that sort of concern. So there were two prior decisions where the board made that finding. So just again, I'll be quick because I primarily want to tell you what's happened since we've been here and what's occurred in the planning board, but there are two areas in the back that are enclosed. I'm sorry, there are two areas of the building that are enclosed. Not enclosed, excuse me, they have roof structures over them. And that's the service drop-off area. And also there's a display area on the west side of the building. Those areas have, I have the photographs in the file, and I gave you copies of the photographs, but these are areas that have are totally roofed. So this proposed drop-off enclosure and this display area enclosure. So what we want to do is enclose those. And I have the numbers for you here. And again, tell me if I just have a couple new board members, so I just want to generally familiarize. I'll give you the full.
This is the Mercedes dealership on County Road 39. It was granted relief sometime back in 2004 for the square feet of the building, but some sections of the building were left open, so they didn't end up being included in the square footage, so they're proposing some changes, including enclosing some areas, and I believe doing
And one's an
some
additional area.
changes.
Yeah. So this little drop-off, I'm sorry, this little area on the side, which is currently has a roof over it, we want to enclose that. That would be an 829 square foot expansion. There's a vehicle drop-off area that's totally roofed. That's 4,236 square feet. We'd like to fully enclose that. And then there's a service area. This would actually be new. That's not either have a roofed area, but that's for the addition of some additional service bays. So we put this case in, we demonstrated that the 15,000 square foot limitation, which is what we need relief from, has been oftentimes recognized not to be an ill when what you're talking about is an automobile dealership, because these are naturally the types of uses and buildings and structures that occur on the highway. And again, that whole 1,000 square foot limitation, the town of Southampton didn't want the, what do you call them, like the Costco's and the Best Buy and the big box stores, exactly, because it's, you've got these wonderful PC. Is that a big?
I'm a little.
Okay. Sorry. Not so much PC Richards. I'm going to stick with the other examples. They didn't want those to be able to impact on the downtown area. So I think we're very clear with that. So what did we do? We went back to the planning board because the planning board had to take care of seeker, and also we wanted to know what the planning board's thoughts were on the project. So what happened? We submitted some traffic information to the planning board. We had a traffic report. We submitted some other documentation to the planning board. A couple of things happened at the planning board. I think the planning board wanted to know whether or not we could make any changes to this proposed display enclosure, because it was proposed to be wrapped in pretty much in glass. And some of the members thought it would be a good opportunity to actually improve this area. So let me show you, if I have it, what we did is, and these are all part of the planning board record, and indeed they became part of the rationale for the negative declaration that the planning board issued. This is the 829 square foot, is it? 829, 839 square foot area that we'd like to enclose. It's currently, it just has that metal roofed section over it, and it was proposed originally in the elevations to be glass, more like this area. So the planning board asked us, and we went back and we made a substantial change to the elevations, and it's going to be brick like the rest of the Mercedes. And indeed, the board members' comments were that they thought it actually looked a lot better than the existing, which is just open. It'll be brick, it'll add to the symmetry of the building. You'll remember the building has a glass section, and then either side is a brick. So we did that. We submitted a traffic report which found that there would be no impact upon the way County Road 39 works, and minimal impact. And then we did something in order to, so we made some of these changes, gave them some input, and then I want to show you this, because I think this is, I'm actually sort of very happy and sort of proud of this. What I'm going to give you is the adopted planning board staff report, which also served as the ZBA referral. And this is what it says in terms of the ZBA referral. The planning board finds the proposed expansions will require a variance, of course, and they say the amount of square footage. And then the only other thing the planning board says is the planning board also acknowledged that the proposed additions occur largely in the rear of the building over areas already utilized by the car dealership for vehicle drop-off and servicing. Which, to me, is the planning board making part of my case, which is there's no visual impact, no impact on the character of the neighborhood. Why am I, usually I don't spend a lot of time with planning board.
And actually,
referrals to the zoning board of appeals.
we did.
And you
get
noted
this.
that as well.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting, and I'll show this to you, I've written over it a bunch of times, and even on the specific page, not adopted, because this was the original planning board report. Not the original planning board report, this was the original staff report. We went in to talk about it, and we had some discussions, and we talked about modifications. And at the second page, where I've written not adopted, the original planning board report stated the planning board is opposed to the variance that would allow the building to be nearly twice the size permitted in the HB district. They took that out. And the only thing they said, other than saying that, other than laying out the fact that variances were needed, the only thing they said is they acknowledged the proposed additions occur largely in the rear of the building over areas already utilized by the car dealership for vehicle drop-off and servicing. So in about 10 years, this is the closest I've gotten to an actual planning, but it's pretty darn close to a recommendation, I think. It went from a recommendation against granting the variance to an acknowledgement that most of the additions are happening in the rear of the building.
Yeah.
So I think that's very, very important. And how did we get there? We showed them some traffic studies which made them comfortable. We changed the architecture. And I think it's fair to say that they were happy with it. Thus the report, thus the recommendation. And so there's a negative declaration.
Well, I thought about this application a little bit.
Okay.
And I come about it in two ways.
Okay.
In terms of my thought process. The one area, if we were concerned about the addition of square footage, the one area where we could not grant relief on, I'm not saying I'm going there, would be the 4236 square footage for the vehicle drop-off area, because it exists currently, and we already know it works for the purposes that it's utilized for. So that's one way we could, reduce the amount of square footage if that's the direction we're going in. That having been said, the enclosing of this area is probably, if anything, to a benefit to the neighbors, because there isn't as much noise, and maybe isn't as much visual disturbance if it's closed off as opposed to being open. So, I mean, one could argue it, both ways. And, I know you indicated that the intent of the limitation in terms of the size of a building like this was for particular types of buildings. I'm just more concerned about, the impacts on the neighbors, and I don't see any opposition to this application, number one. And number two, I think actually, sealing off what is open areas of the building has some benefits. One also can make the argument that the 2004, the original application was meant to minimize the amount of square footage being requested because they didn't want it, the applicant didn't want it to seem to be too much at the outset, and now they're revising it because, well, they've already gotten approval for what they've got, and they'd like a little bit more.
Well, they also picked up a lot more land.
Okay.
So, and that drives it.
Yeah.
And the planning board saw that. And
Yeah.
the planning board realizes that the actual space got bigger.
Right, yeah. And in terms of a larger building and it's having a negative impact on adjacent properties, to me, a lot of that is about how the building is situated on the property, whether it's close to, adjacent properties, whether there's going to be activity on the property that's going to negatively impact the neighbors. This is not going to expand the dealership in any significant way, I don't think. It's really just making some interior changes and a modest addition. At least that's how I see it. So, anyway, any other board members have any thoughts about all this?
Yeah, Mr. Bennett, I just wanted to ask
Sure.
the proposed display enclosure, so that's an existing display now?
Yeah, let me get you a copy.
It's an overhang now, and you just want to enclose that?
Just want to enclose it. As a matter of fact, the thoughts on the planning board was actually, it looked better visually enclosed. It just has it has those metal, it has a metal roof over it. Let me see, I'm hoping, I've handed these out, they should be in the file, but here. There it is.
Got it.
So now it's going to be wrapped in, it'll be glass, but brick,
With
like
brick.
the rest of it.
I see your
Yeah, and I
rendering.
think so, actually. It actually adds a little bit more balance and symmetry to it.
Yeah, I mean, could they operate with it remaining open? Absolutely. Nothing stops them from being able to continue to function without it being enclosed. But
Interestingly, when you say that, though, in speaking to the, and I think it's all a good application, and it's all enclosures, but this is really important. This enclosure of the service drop-off and stuff, it's what dealerships are doing now. So actually, while I think they're all important, but this is actually, for the actual functioning and for the client, probably the most critical part of it, in order to be able to provide the type of services that the other type of high-end dealerships are providing. It's a competitive thing, even in this. People will go to Smithtown to buy a Mercedes instead of Southampton, so, and they've enclosed their service area. So this is actually quite critical.
And I've been in the building. It's a really nice building.
They do a nice job.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah, it came out.
And I don't know, it's weird, when I say this, I hope I don't sound sort of snobby or anything like that, weird or something like that. It's nice to have a Mercedes deal. I think it sets a nice pace when you're coming into town. It is what it is, you know? Burns has this dealership, and he also has the Lexus dealership, and I think they're the two nicest buildings on County Road 39. I think County Road 39 is different than it was 10 years ago, but also, and I think the planning board has done a great job, and I think people are putting more and more money into it, but there's also, there's some buildings on County Road 39 that, looking like they did back in the 60s, when you felt like you were on some of those not so nice parts of the trip down to the Florida Keys. And so I think he spent a lot of money on this. Very proud of it. Just wants to make it better. And there hasn't been any negative impact and negative comments from the neighbors. I'm not trying to hoist you by your own words, but I think it's very true. It isn't something that I hadn't thought of, but it does, to the extent you're enclosing this, it does cut down on sound, other types of noise pollution, stuff like that. And again, I'm sort of proud of the fact that I started out with a planning board recommendation of a denial, and it turned not to something that was just
Well, you're a very persuasive
benign.
guy, John.
Well, I tried.
That must have been it.
I tried. But it turned to it turned to a realization, A, that you need a variance, but B, that acknowledging that most of the stuff is in the back or already enclosed. I think that's about as close as you get to a recommendation of approval from the planning board for variance, because they don't like to give recommendations of approvals or variances, because they're not a board that typically deals with them. So, but in any event. So
Even the Toyota dealership in Riverhead has a drive-in for your service, that it's comfortable.
Yeah, it's really where they're going, So, anyway, we'd like to do all this.
Were there any changes to the survey since the last time we heard this, or is July
No.
27th the most recent?
No. The only change is to the elevations, which are, it's going to be, instead of glass, a couple of the board members were, could you, sort of like a Western Suffolk, Nassau-looking thing, can you try to make it more of an East End vernacular, so we just wrapped it in brick.
No, the brick looks good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Does not appear to be anyone from the public. Cornelius, it's yours.
We're waiting on any referrals?
Well, you have a, I think you're set to go, you have a neg deck from the planning board, so that's what you're waiting for. And the referral, and there's a planning board referral as well. Yeah.
Okay. Move to close the public hearing with a written decision on February 15th.
Second.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Sessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill. Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
I have a determination in the matter of Richard Hale. Applicant is seeking relief from Town Code Section 33011, Residential District Table of Dimensional Regulations. I'll read the relief at the end. Parcel contains 14,735 square feet and is located at 15 Pallery Road, Southampton Town, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-313-3-16, Type 2 pursuant to SECRA. At a public hearing held herein, testimony was offered that the applicant is desirous to construct a one-story addition to the western side of his existing house to add a garage and additional living space. During the public hearing, the applicant agreed to reduce the requested side yard and total side yard setback and remove that part from his application. It does meet the 5-part test. There was no opposition. Therefore, in the interest of justice and the reasons set forth herein, this board grants applicant relief from Section 330-111, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a principal front yard setback of 36.2 feet. This was last shown on a survey by Hands On Surveying dated August 23rd, 2017, and made part of the record herein. The granting of the foregoing relief is conditioned on the applicant obtaining any and all permits and approvals as required by the Southampton Town Building Department.
We have a second.
Second.
Mr. Sessa.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
I abstain.
Okay. Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
You probably want to abstain because that was...
This is,
Yep,
yeah.
but from back in December.
Yeah.
Okay, so abstain.
Abstain.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
That's okay. Ms. Burgess.
I
Chair votes aye.
I have a decision of minor variance in the matter of the application of Ercolani, 2012 Gift Trust. Okay, the subject premises is located at 129 Halsey Lane in the hamlet of Bridgehampton, town of Southampton, county of Suffolk, and state of New York. This board finds the subject application to be a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and the relevant provisions of the Southampton Code. Applicant proposes to construct a 17 by 19 by 18 feet 5 inches addition and covered patio with an 11.3 foot side yard setback where 13.1 feet is permitted. This board is in receipt of correspondence between the adjacent property owner to the south, Catherine Bosters, who requested that any variance be conditioned upon compliance with the dark skies provisions of the town code, and a letter dated January 31st, 2008, from Bruce Anderson, agent for the applicant, agreeing to such a condition. It passes the 5-part test.
Therefore, and for the reasons set forth herein, this board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-115D1 continuance for a principal minimum side yard setback of 11.3 feet, where 12.99 feet is permitted, and a total side yard setback of 31.1 feet, where 32.48 feet is permitted, for a proposed one-story addition with covered patio as shown on the survey prepared by Martin Donald Hand of Hands On Surveying, dated April 18, 2017, last revised January 2nd, 2018. Grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including compliance with the dark skies provisions of the Southampton Town Code, prior to the issuance of any certificates of compliance occupancy for the addition patio.
Second.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Now determination in the matter of the application of Jason and Marcia Hefter. The property is located at 25 Bay Avenue in East Quogue, tax map number 900-342-226.2. Applicant requests the following variances. 33011, residential district table of dimensional regulations for a principal minimum side yard setback of 10 feet, 1.5 inches, where 20 feet is required. Relief from 33084D, pyramid relief in the amount of 3,887 cubic feet, and relief from 33083C, yards to allow the overhang to project into the required principal side yard, all for a proposed attached two-car garage with a second floor addition, and any other relief necessary. The subject property consists of an existing two-story, single-family residence with a porch and garage and an attached wood deck. We have COs for the structures on the property. We also had a referral from the Conservation Board, and there was some, we discussed earlier, some discussion during the public hearing about whether the applicant should have a Conservation Board permit before we rendered the decision. Type 2 pursuant to SECRA. The testimony was from Robert Stromsky, agent for the applicants, and Jason Hefter, one of the applicants. The applicant seeks to construct a modest addition to their existing residence consisting of an attached two-car garage with living space above, and they need setback relief, pyramid relief, and relief to locate the garage with addition above in a side yard for the project. The problem with this property is that because it has wetlands, they have significant restrictions as to where they can locate the addition. They do not yet have a Conservation Board permit. However, based on a memorandum dated December 11th, 2017, which was after the last public hearing when we were discussing the merits of the application, received by this board from Martin Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst, Department of Land Management, Environmental Division, this board has decided in this instance to issue a determination prior to the issuance of a wetlands permit to the applicants. That's based on his recommendation. It passes the 5-part test. Therefore, this board grants applicant relief from Zoning Code 33011 for a principal minimum side yard setback of 10 feet, 1.5 inches, where 20 feet is required. Relief from 33084D, pyramid relief in the amount of 3,887 cubic feet, and relief from 33083C, yards to allow the overhang to project onto the required principal side yard, all for a proposed attached two-car garage with a second floor addition. This addition will have the dimensional requirements and location as shown on the survey and floor plans of Stromsky Architecture by Robert Stromsky, dated June 21st, 2016, as well as the pyramid sketch of Stromsky Architecture by Robert Stromsky, dated July 21st, 2016, which were submitted with the application and are incorporated herein. This relief is conditioned on the applicants obtaining all required approvals, including but not limited to a wetlands permit from the Southampton Town Conservation Board. Grant of this relief is subject to any other permits the applicant requires for final approval of the attached garage with second-story addition above to be built on the subject property.
Second.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Abstain.
Mr. Hahn.
Abstain.
Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I have a decision in the matter of the application of Key One Standen. The subject premises is located at 20 Barker's Island Road in the hamlet of Tuckahoe, town of Southampton, county of Suffolk, and state of New York. The property is identified in the Suffolk County tax map as 900-128-2-11.3 and is approximately 43,022 feet. The parcel is located in the R80 zoning district. Applicant took title to the premises by deed dated October 23rd, 3rd, 2015. This board finds the subject application to be a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and the relevant provisions of the Southampton Town Code. At the public hearing on this matter, Wayne Bruin Esquire of O'Shea, Mossack and Bruin, LLP, appeared on behalf of the applicant stating that he seeks relief in order to construct an 18-foot by 40-foot swimming pool and a 10-foot by 12-foot pool equipment shed. Mr. Bruin stated that only a small portion of the pool and pool equipment shed require relief and that there will be no impact on the neighborhood as there is existing screening on the property to minimize any impact. The building department comments submitted with the application note that while the pool house benefits from a certificate of occupancy, it does not conform to the town code, and as such, relief was included in the application to clarify its location. There was no opposition to this application. It passes the 5-part test. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-11, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations. 1, for an accessory rear yard setback of 20 feet for a proposed swimming pool where 30 feet is required. 2, to allow an existing accessory building pool house to remain in its current location with an accessory rear yard setback of 17 feet and an accessory side yard setback of 19 feet, and for an accessory rear yard setback of 20 feet for a proposed pool equipment shed where 30 feet is required for structures as shown on the survey prepared by Joseph Secafico, PLS, of Colonial Surveying, PC, dated September 3rd, 2015, last updated January 30th, 2018. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill. Aye. Mr. Hahn. Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Have a decision in the matter of the application of 220 Quimby Lane. The subject premise is located 220 Quimby Lane in Hamlet, Bridgehampton, town of Southampton, County of Suffolk, State of New York. The property is identified as Suffolk County Tax Map 900-117-1-3, and it is 40,055 square feet in our 60 zoning district. I will read the relief at the end. Tim McCulley represented the applicant of Burke Sullivan. This is for a Patanki court, all right? AKA bocce ball court. Anyhow, what's going to happen is that the applicant had priorly gotten a variance for a pool. They put the pool in. They're going to yank the pool out, put the Patanki court there, a little trellis and stuff. Neighbor was a little concerned about screening and everything, so naturally Mr. McCauley bowed down, gave them all the screening they wanted and everything else, passes the 5-part test. So therefore, in the interest of justice, this board grants relief from Town Code 330-11 Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory distance from street setback of 59.4 feet for a proposed Patanki court where 90 feet is required. 2, an accessory distance from street setback of 52.7 feet for a proposed trellis structure around the Patanki court where 90 feet is required. And 3, an accessory distance of street setback of 49.4 feet for the raised patio where 90 feet is required. This board also grants relief from Town Code 330-83C yards and 330-76D placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts to allow a proposed Patanki court trellis structure around the Patanki court and raised patio to be located within the required front yard. This relief is granted for structures as shown in a survey prepared by Robert A. Smith of Squires, Old Elizabeth and Smith surveyed March 14, 2016, last revised October 30, 2017. The grant of this relief is conditioned upon the removal of the shed as indicated on the survey and the implementation and maintenance by the applicant and all future owners of the premises of the augment screening plan prepared by Timothy Rumpf, Arias Design dated June 20, 2017, last revised June 3, 2018. Further, and subject to compliance with the town code, the only lighting permitted around the Patanki court is that shown on the plan by David at JRA dated July 21, 2017, last revised January 3, 2018. The granting the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions of offense as the applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Abstain.
Mr. DeSessa.
Abstain.
Mr. Hahn. Abstain. Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I think we got four.
I have a decision in the matter of the application.
Bocce ball players.
The application of Darcy Bailey Scoville. The subject premises is located at 3325 Noyak Road in the hamlet of Sag Harbor, town of Southampton, county of Suffolk, and state of New York. The property is identified on the Suffolk County tax map as 900-4-3-38 and is approximately 9,532 square feet in this zoning district. The board finds the subject application to be a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, (SEQRA), and the relevant provisions of the Southampton Town Code. At the public hearing on this matter, Diana Laspiza appeared on behalf of the applicant, stating that she seeks relief in order to construct a 14-foot by 18-foot sunroom addition and deck to the existing dwelling. Ms. Laspiza testified that premises abuts a commercial property to the east, and the premises is heavily vegetated, which offers screening for the proposed additions. There was no opposition to this application. It passes the 5-part test. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provision of the Town Code. 1, for the proposed sunroom addition, Town Code Section 330-34, Business District's Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a principal rear yard setback of 20.6 feet, where 30 feet is required, and 2, for the proposed deck, relief from Town Code Section 330-76D, placement of accessory building and uses in all districts, and Town Code Section 330-83C yards, to allow the proposed deck to be located within the minimum required side yard of the principal building. This relief is granted for structures as shown on the survey prepared by Barrett, Bonacci, and Van Wheely, PC, dated October 31, 2017, last revised November 30th, 2017, and the plans prepared by Alexis Spyru, P.E., dated November 7th, 2017. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired, may other have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn. Abstain. Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.